One of the debates within ecological economics has revolved around the value of nature. This is a difficult question. I think it's, in many ways, it's much easier to say what is not the value of nature than what is the value of nature, because nature is at once everything. It's the life support system. It's that which makes everything worthwhile, right? So how do you put a value on that? And it's also this kind of, we can pick it apart and put it into pieces, because it has a great plurality of values as well, from spiritual values to aesthetic and recreational values to more instrumental values and to monetary value. The trap that's been put before us in ecological economics is to sort of try to push everything into this one bucket of monetary value, to sort of take all of these incommensurate values, all of these values that are very, very difficult to compare, and to sort of be drawn to this idea that we can put dollar values on these things.
The contribution of nature, of natural ecosystems, what we call natural capital, is substantial to human well-being and the sustainability of that well-being. We've estimated from a synthesis of hundreds of other studies of the value of various kinds of ecosystem services, and those services range from things like climate regulation at the global scale to more regional things like water supply, water regulation, flood control, sediment and erosion control, to more local things like recreational amenities and biodiversity. So there's a whole range of these ecosystem services. When you add them all up, we come up with numbers conservatively estimated, given the problems of doing something like that, of more than $30 trillion a year. This is larger than conventional GNP, or at least it was at the time that we did this study. So the contributions of nature, the value of nature in terms of supporting human well-being is substantial, and yet it has been largely underrated and ignored in our conventional economic decision-making. It's not been part of that process, and often we hear, that it's the environment versus the economy, or the environment versus jobs. But once you realize that the environment is really contributing a major part of the well-being of people, then that dichotomy doesn't make any sense.
Within ecological economics, we've been trying to elevate the discussion to this discussion of the plurality of values, if you will. There are market values, and a dollar might be appropriate for a market value when a good or service can be viewed as having a clear substitute in the human-made world. That has a market value. There are non-market values, so it's possible to say, well, this current thing, like a recreational experience, is not traded in markets, but we could put a dollar value on it. We could go and ask people, what's this worth to you? And again, if there's a clear substitute for that in the marketable world, people can answer that question intelligently. Then there's this sort of whole ecosystem value stuff where there's not real clear substitutes for, what's the clear substitute for the environment's ability to generate oxygen? What's a clear substitute for the environment's ability to cycle nutrients? What's a clear substitute for the ozone layer's ability to protect us from harmful UV radiation? Now the sort of dollar valuation business starts to fall apart. And so if we think about tiers of value in ecological economics, and if we think about the sum of all of these parts, it's very difficult to imagine a dollar value.
The easiest answer is just to say, well, nature is the source of all raw materials that are needed for economic production, the source of all energy flows that are needed for economic production, and those raw materials that nature provides, they also serve as the structural building blocks of ecosystems. Those structures generate functions. Those functions of value to humans are ecosystem services. And humans, like all other species, depend on well-functioning ecosystems for those ecosystem services for our survival. Those services include vital life support functions. They include a lot of other less vital but absolutely wonderful services that have tremendous benefit to us, to the point where some people have argued that we've evolved to appreciate nature, this biophilia hypothesis. If you put somebody in a hospital room that's exposed to bleak urban settings, they're going to get healthier less quickly than if you put them in one that's exposed to beautiful nature. So we've evolved to really just care about nature for its own sake. So the values of nature is providing these vital life support functions to humans, providing and other animals, other species, providing all the building blocks for our economic system, and it has tremendous inherent value as well. And I think this is kind of interesting to me that a lot of from the religious side, people believe that, well, nature was created by God. It's and it's this. It's these amazing, it's absolutely sacred. It was God's creation here for us to take care of. And a lot of scientists believe that, everything just kind of, there were certain laws of physics that applied, and just by chance it evolved into life in this amazing civilization. And the chances of that happening, somebody once mentioned that, compared it to a hurricane blowing through a junkyard and creating a 747. And if that person is right, and the scientists are right, then talk about a miracle. Talk about, we live in this, so that whether you take the creationist view that this was done by, intelligent design, or you take the scientist view, we're talking about a miracle of creation, and, the value of nature is sacred and beyond measurement, almost by definition.